That's when I say that the land of Israel technically belongs to whoever is willing to fight for it and keep it and be successful. That's it.
So the word indigenous should not be used in this
Correct.
case.
Not at all. Why? Is because they're they're playing both sides of the field. The only
Right.
people who care about any sort of indigenous right to anything are not religious people. They're leftists.
Uh, There's some that are actually religious that are pushing that, and
No.
I strongly.
The only reason they're pushing it is because that's what leftists want to hear. The leftist wants the average American to give the land back to the Indians. Why? Because they were indigenous. Truth be told, these Indians stole it from other Indians, but fine.
Indigenous means you traveled there on horses instead of boats.
It's one of those things like ethnicity. You ask 5 people, you get 8 opinions on what it could possibly mean. But regardless, being there before doesn't give anyone a right to anything, right? I'm not willing to give America back to the Indians because I think we've done better with it, right? And there's no religious argument I could make for the American claim over Indians. There was a religious argument, it wasn't a Jewish one, it was manifest destiny, which pretty much says the same thing. Being that we're going to do better with the land, it seems that God wants us to have it, right? And that sort of makes sense. There is a reason why Israel's flourishing now. I mean, from space, if you look at Israel, it's green now. Jews could actually make the desert bloom. Truth be told, the desert of Sinai wasn't an actual desert, supposedly, till the Arabs took it over. I think that from a secular perspective, the land belongs to whoever wins it. That's it. And this is clear in Islamic history that losers really just have to suck it up and just walk away and not go on CNN and cry in front of a camera. That's a side of being a sore loser, and those are the tactics of dishonorable warfare. I mean, who does that? And traditionally, whoever starts the battle is responsible for the casualties within that battle. Historically, this has always been the case. We don't judge World War II by how many Germans we unalived, or to in some way say that because the US and Britain bombed Dresden, that those numbers are used against that big scale that determines who was right or wrong in the war. Of course not. The casualties always fall upon the person who started the war, but for some reason, the left doesn't care about who started. The left doesn't care who's right and wrong. They separate the world differently. In order to care about who started, that would mean that you have, to begin with, some ethical standard. They don't have an ethical standard to make judgments by. So they separate the world in primitive matters. Black, white, weak, strong, tall, short, rich, poor. Not right and wrong, ethical, unethical, because they don't have an immovable value system. And so that we shouldn't pander and lower ourselves just to appeal to the leftists. And I'm talking to Jews right now, like making arguments like it belongs to us because we were there first. You're not convincing any religious person of the argument, not anyone who knows the Torah. Because does God have a say? Because if God has a say, I mean, he'll step in and say the land doesn't belong to you and the land doesn't belong to you. That Israel's a secular country. It just called itself Israel to put Jews around the world through some guilt trip to have people support them, because the early Zionists didn't even want to settle in the land of Israel. They chose parts of Uganda, possibly Argentina. Some of the early Zionists, settled for the Jewish national homeland in the Soviet Union. Let's just be honest. I support Israel because I don't think you have to be religious or a Zionist to support Israel at this time. However, let's really make a huge separation between left-wing arguments and religious arguments, and don't let your left-wing arguments tarnish your religion, because that's what's happening. This is why people don't want to come to Judaism, because they're thinking oh, well, in order to be Jewish, I have to be a Zionist, which is not true. You can convert to Judaism and be anti-Zionist. Right? I would convert someone who's anti-Zionist. I wouldn't convert someone who's harming innocent people. Okay, but out of their... Yeah?
Like the Turi Karta, have they changed lightened up their stance since this has happened?
No, not at all. And they perform conversions, by the way. The Neturei Karta